Alright, so this is the advanced mode, if you will. This is what came in the booster packs. Now, in the set, there are 216 additional cards that are available in the booster packs, and then obviously you had the 30 that came in the standard decks. I'll go through some of the differences, basically just, again, proving that this game was ready to roll, as things came out. You have two ways of having basically a character. You have the character card that comes in the boost that comes in the starter, and then you just call it quits. And I'll explain why you might actually want to do that. The other one, which is basically character creation, involves a ton of options. Now, these guys, and yes, I'm pointing with a screwdriver. These guys, the type of card up there is Syndic. You'll see it says mode card. You would design something called a mode deck. This has your in-game maneuver cards, and it has basically skills and other such things. Now, this one, a Syndic is not a pilot. It's basically your connections. And you'll see that you can have multiple connections. This is an actual mode deck. You can have multiple connections, and you gain different abilities because they don't start in play. You have a deck that they're drawn from, and that in and of itself is very interesting and how that works. But right here where it says you get these skills I'll show you on the maneuver cards. This gives you one command, one pilot, one stealth. So you already, if that's your only card right now, can add one command maneuver, one pilot maneuver, one stealth maneuver, and then there's terrain that triggers off that, and it just goes on and on and on. But you have almost all the Syndic cards have second chance. You saw that on the on some of the other cards. This retest basically is when you end up doing one of those fights. I'll just put these two out, and it comes up not in your favor. If you see the other side and you're like, oh man, that would work so much better, you could ask for a retest. So if this is your weapon, this is your target, comes up here. You use the retest, this thing gets spun again, and if it lands and gets aligned, I could easily slag that gear. So if it turns out that, I have a 1 in 2 chance, and now that I know that, I might very well go back and have that retest. It's, basically because you are basically talking about a coin flip. You're just asking for a reflip. And then this ability is far more unique. And obviously here's some backstory. That's whatever. As I drop stuff, here we go. Then you have the 0 they call null, which is very confusing when you see it on a sheet. I'm like, that's a 0. But anyway, so you have the null foundation. Here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more skills. That's a lot of stuff. You can retest by discarding cards. You get some additional abilities here. Now, how the mode deck works, and I really need to bring this in closer. See that in the bottom quarter where it basically looks like the cent symbol? That's how many credits this cost. On average, an advanced play game, you have 600 points to build between your unit and your mode deck. Now, the standard, deck that came with your figure is only 300 cards. And the character card, this guy, costs 0. So if you want to put 600 points into your unit, you can do that and still play the game. But if you want a more and obviously it's more advanced because you have to build your mode deck and operate it, you're going to be looking at sorts of things there. So this guy, for example, is 40 points. She's 100, so you're looking at 140. Now, in true RPG fashion, there are also flaws. And if you know anything about D&D and such, flaws are negative abilities, but this one gives you 30 credits back. So when this goes in play, it basically goes face up off to the side, and your opponent can activate it, and then it'll be, discarded. So this deck has 2 flaws, so effectively it's going to run at 660 points. Now, here are the maneuvers. I wouldn't say this is the bread and butter of it all, but this is a big part of the more advanced, or if this ever actually had hit competitive play, this would be it. You have the type of card, Psych Out. You have essentially what you need. So this will use one of those alertness words. And the alertness here, coming from deck building, is coming, let's get a zoom, it's coming from her. So right now, she grants the use of one alertness maneuver. So there's my alertness maneuver. To my memory, I don't think there's another one here. There's a single command. It's a psych out. I'll cover what that does in a moment. There's an engineer. There's a gunnery. Again, I'm looking right up there. Here's a Marshal Z. Some of those are really entertaining. There's a pilot skill, savvy, stealth. Now, there are multiple in each of these. So you can see right here, for example, you have 2 different ones using that stealth. So I need two ones that say stealth. And you'll see here, as I bring it a little bit closer, I have 2 stealth keywords. So I can have 2 stealth cards in there. And then I would get into the custom ones. Now, this guy is a superior mode. In the expansion, or if you want to say the advanced one, what came in the booster packs, there are 3 more variations of the same exact card on literally everything, all parts. So this is what's called a basic or a standard. There's really no way of saying that. So you see there's no text there. There is a superior, a prototype, and a state-of-the-art. As you can imagine, state-of-the-art's usually really expensive. This one has reflex, that one has reflex. That one has ZG, that one has ZG2, which adds an ability. Dodge 2, stats are based the same. Has a double armor piercer there, has double armor up there. So that's sort of our change. Now this is being a custom. I'm using the red chain gun, but I'm not using the one that came in the box. I'm using the superior one, which takes knockback to knockback 2. What's a little confusing here is that knockback 2 is just adding on to knockback 1. So if you have knockback, which it won't have a 1 in front of it, let me find the traditional one here. So as you can see, the numbers are the same. It's 4 impulse, 0 move, 6 range. What you're paying for is knockback 2. There we go. Knockback 2 has knockback 1 and knockback 2, but it doesn't list that. So, that's kind of there. That's where this game definitely needs some reference cards, but we'll get to that. You have a prototype buckler. Now, all the prototypes are not downgraded versions. They are very unique versions. Sometimes they are downgraded versions. Let me find the original buckler. At least, the very least, it's all the same art, just different colors. So, we have the prototype, and here, difference. This one, the regular, costs 30, the prototype costs 50. And all prototypes have jam. Every single one, that's their balance. Because you can see, this is an 8 impulse 4 move, but it has parry 2, and has ZG2. So, you're paying the extra 20 points, and you're also adding a weakness symbol here. And again, it's just stuff going different. You have the recoilless rifle superior. Let's find... Where are you? Here we are. The regular recoilless rifle. This adds scan. It still has the same explosion. It adds a armor piercer down there. Adds a 3rd armor piercer up here. And it adds an extra card of range. The prototype, so there's the jam, but it has parry 3. Parry 3 is a very rare ability. So, may parry and counterstrike a ranged attack. Now, unfortunately, by the rules, ranged weapons and zone weapons are different. So, despite the fact that something's hitting long range, if it says it's a zone attack, it's different. You're talking about RPGs where the words are very specific. But having a move of 3, 7 impulse, parry 3, very important for what this one wants to do. Here is a superior one. It has charge 2, knockback 2, ZG2, so those are all upgrades. And this is the red helmet, the prototype. It adds aim 3. Anytime you see 3 is usually only occurring on 1 or 2 cards. It's very rare. But aim 3 says it replaces attack. Next attack is a sneak attack and may not be dodged, parried, or retested. Pretty good. It basically means, obviously you'll fire this off first, then you go to your superior recoilless rifle, and it means that they're probably going to hit with it, because you can also play 3 of these maneuver cards a turn. And I know that sounded like a ton of rules. And it is. It took me a couple days to kind of get through all that. So let's look at some more fun factors of why RPG guys making CCGs sometimes is not the greatest plan. 1 time, 2 time, 0 time, 7 time. Now, that's actually not a unit. Time here is not a unit, it's a timing. There are 7 periods of time throughout a given attack. One is like reveal impulse, 2 is declare attack, 3 is a declare defense, 4 is like test, 7 is like is if memory serves, it's like resolve the attack. So these things have timing restrictions, not just time. And to make things even more absolutely crazy, just to kind of throw you off, the card type matters. Certain cards are immune to psych out, this, that, the other thing. These cards actually have 2 uses. So these are multifunction without saying multifunction. If you have played games in the later 2000s, you will know we've come a long way since 2001. So this is a build keyword. This is a play keyword. Psych out can be used for this ability, or you can just play the psych out to force a retest on a maneuver card. Speed adds +1 to a move. Augment adds +1 armor piercing to attack. Bolster adds +1 to an armor. Now, those are instead of. So this can either be played as that or as that. They're not attached. So this is a lot of stuff going on. And as you can see, there's not a lot of keywords. You're just like boom, 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 boom. And it can get heady quickly, especially for effectively what's a toy that was sold in KB Toys. I want to kind of emphasize that. But at the same time, you as a dead game, as a 2001 collectible card game, as you will, there's a lot of stuff here. Now I want to bring up a couple other cards and show from my complete collection to kind of show some more entertaining sides. So my apologies, because obviously it's going to go a little long. This is a sequential. This is the entire 216 card expansion pack. I'm going to go through this quickly to try and hit some highlights. This is one of like the rares. You can see it has this grayish foil to it. They don't all come this way. To be confusing, there are white border rares, white backed rares, and then there are some silver rares. Obviously, that was, part of the chasteness of this. There's a prime, and the very last card is null. I won't spoil that, that way. Here's the prototype ulster. So like I said, there's 4 different versions of every part. You have the base game, a prototype, a state-of-the-art, and a superior. From everything I can tell, the state-of-the-arts were rares, because these cards came in 10-card booster packs. You had 1 rare, 2 uncommons, and 7 commons. Now, we've not covered our arena cards. These can either be bought, or the Z-Marshal, which is, if you've played Pokemon or anything like that, they're kind of like the event coordinator as well as judge. They could also design scenarios, which also worked with Mage Knight and stuff like that. You have these effects, like you would set up terrain, set this on top, that defines the terrain, because you have the size stats, and then this gives these terrains certain abilities. So in your 600 points, if you wanted, you just come with terrain, and you could have bought those sorts of ways. And so because I have one of the decks that does that. Here's a different Syndic card. You see Alert, Savvy, Trance. There are, oh my god, I think there's something like 12 different keyword types. Here's a prototype. There's a bolster. I'm going to try and, obviously you want to slow down and stop. I want to kind of highlight some of these really cool, they always keep citing the art style as being very anime-like, and that's actually what attracted me to it. So you'll see the average character has about, the average Syndic has about 3 kinds of types. So there's another arena card. The load card, that's where that plus sign comes in. So you see it says System Ulster. All ulsters have that yellow plus. That means they can take a load card. Now, when you play out your Syndic deck, you play it into what's called a control panel. And again, keywords everywhere. Sorry about that. That's what the game was. It's 3 different slots, and you build upon those slots. The load will give you a 4th slot if whatever system is destroyed. So there are ones for like, oh my god, what is it? The front piece. I think there's one for the loading claw. If that piece is ever destroyed, you lose this card and any stacked on top of it. But for an ulster roll, you'll lose the game anyway. Prototype gear. Here's another. There are 9 different flaws. There are something like, oh my god, how many? I'm trying to think. It's I think it's like close to 20 different Syndic cards. Expert. These are really cool. You see here it says counts as 3 gunnery skill. That's cool. And this can sit in the slot because normally when you have your 3 different slots, let me try to set up like a mock setup because you would have 3 different control slots. You go and play the top maneuver off that slot. This basically lets you play any of the gunnery cards that are in that slot. That's cool. Now, also the keyword count, to be even more confusing, allows for that many cards of the same card. So this means not only can you have 3 gunnery cards, they can all be the same gunnery card. So if that one, that obviously kind of matters because there are certain skills that definitely want repeat play. So you saw one for gunnery. As you can assume, it's for gunnery. This is for using Marshal Z skills. Now, usually Marshal Z has to do with your ulster and footgear. That's pretty cool. So here's another rare. There's a trance card. Trance seems to be like one of those really hard to play ways of doing stuff. There is a state-of-the-art. This one's obviously not foil. Magna Beam 2, Parry 3. Like I said, it's a very rare ability, very costly. Where are we at? This one cost 80. You look at, there's Trancer. But now, I don't think I covered this. Maneuver cards are usually single-digit price. So it is a balancing act, and I really appreciate that because you oftentimes just putting a card in the deck, the only thing it costs you is the slot. These have a build point requirement. These have keyword requirements. There's no Syndic. There's a flaw. I gotta try and find a drive card. All right, well, here's a rare drive card. Cost is 60. Has that hero ability, which is only found on characters and some of the more expensive drive cards, and it has another ability. These, according to the reports, or at least the hinting anyway, that the official site that is archived would say, you typically would start with likely your drive card in play because of that hero ability and that second ability. Flaws, because you start with 1 mode card in play. Let's get a couple of these out of here. Vengeance, Evasive Maneuver, Halt. The art style, it has like that sort of comic book anime feel. And again, it was 2001, so for example, that looks goofy to me. That's got the weird faces. But then, that's perfectly acceptable to me. I like the art style on the arena cards. So that's about half the cards. I want to find one entertaining thing. You find where she is. There was a 4th pilot that was designed. There's another load. That one goes on the headgear, so if your headgear gets blown off, that one goes. Expert Operative. It works on the Savvy skill. Where are you? Of course, going through 216 cards looking for 1 card. That's the way to do it. There's another load. Where are you? I think she was up there. Anyway, there is a 4th pilot. So pilots typically, would be for people who want to spend all their points upgrading just their unit and relying on their skills. Here she is, Lucy. She actually can't destroy gear, and that's how you win the game. On the website, it was suggested that she is a good teammate because instead of destroying gear, she strips away actions. So if you take away 3 of your opponent's actions, they basically skip their turn. So you're lowering their ability to play the game, but you just can't win it. Now, she does have a way to destroy herself, so you still can win the game if you're in 1-on-1. But obviously, since this is a constructible game, this whole thing is just nuts. I don't know how else to say it other than it's just nuts. So that's the long version of the advanced rules. There's just keywords upon keywords. There are exceptions. There's a whole section on exceptions. There's just so many things that the game is, I guess it's basically like playing Magic the Gathering, playing Commander or EDH, if you want to call it that. It really is going in on the deep end. If you see this in the wild, as many people will say, I really think this game's awesome. Now, I'm not paying top dollar for any of this stuff. I never did. You pay what you see fit. If you want to pick some up, We're trying to see about archiving this, but apparently the creator is not really in a very sharing mood when it comes to reprints and stuff like that for Kickstarter. But politics aside, I want to emphasize I like this game as it is. I'm always trying to get more parts. More cards aren't really needed since I have complete sets. But this is a very interesting piece of history because and give shaky cam for a moment. You look at that, it's card driven. You can bring your own terrain. You have character building. You have the ability to play timing maneuvers. The stances on your figures, like the articulation mattered. The loadout mattered. It took probably everything, as some people say about a war game, and it put it into a collectible card game. That, I mean, this is definitely front loaded like nobody's business. But if we had YouTube and it's as it is now, back then, I think this would have changed. The website, for where it was when the game died, which is only about a 1 month difference. So now what? 1 month? Sorry, well, it didn't die that fast. About 1 year. The website had sample decks. It had actually had the forms, and I have them downloaded for how to run leagues, how leagues get promoted, how to run promotions for these things. I mean, between league play, construct, a lot of customization. It had action, these action figures, whatever. This is a very early 2000s, very late 90s game. For being niche, it is definitely a product of its time. And I want to highlight the fact, as I said many times, the game is complete. The fact that you have, 27 parts times 4 versions of every part, that's a lot of variation to put out at once. So, and then you have 216 cards in the expansion. You have the ability to customize your characters to how many moves you want, customize your terrain setup. Despite the fact that this is almost a rules nightmare and has a very steep learning curve if you actually want to play the game right, this thing's awesome. So even if you're just looking at this out of curiosity, thank you very much for sticking with me on this. I hope I did a good job trying to summarize this, because it took me about 3 days to feel very confident in what I am telling you. Just because there's a lot of things that you can only see in play that really needed cleaned up. There's a lot of compromise when it would come to playing with someone else if you did not have someone who is an official representative of the rules. So, talk to you next time.